Hello and welcome to Connect to Love here on PRN-FM, where each week we journey into the many facets of our connection to love, oneness, and the human spirit. I'm Lisa Rose, and I'm joined by the amazing Michael J. Russ. I want to welcome you, Michael. It's always such a delight.
Oh, you know it. It's a delight for me, too. Look forward to it every single week here on PRN-FM. I love our conversations, and for those of our audience who are brand new, all of our conversations are unscripted, and that way we can let it flow, and the energy of the conversation can flow to where it needs to go, so it can be of the most value to you.
That's so true, Michael. And I was reflecting on our show last week because I think that each week, because it is unscripted, it's such a fun exploration for me, and it's always an opportunity to grow. And I actually listened to last week's episode and how we spoke about self-mastery. And I think that each week, you and I, as we're done with the show, we reflect and we reconnect to the essence of what we bring to each episode. I just love it, and I'm so grateful for the time with you as well as with our audience. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for tuning in. It's so delightful.
I agree. It's a busy life, for a lot of people who are leading busy lives, and I'm appreciative because, heck, you take an opportunity to listen to something that can help expand your mind, your consciousness, and move you past where you are now. It's all about thought. It's all about what you believe is possible. And when you believe, when you change something about your thought process, because the mind programs the body and pretty much everything else in your reality, it can make a huge difference and do it quickly. That's what I love about it. It's not linear. It's not linear. It's not from A to Z. It's like you can go from Z to A, or you can start off at B and go to Y. Whatever you want to do, you can, by your own thoughts, by shifting your own perceptions about yourself and your life. There's a miraculous things can happen, completely miraculous. You can heal in many ways by doing that. Let go of the things that are no longer relevant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we do that with thoughts. We do that with thoughts all the time. We have these thoughts, we have these perceptions about past events. We're always dragging the past into the present moment, which muddles it all up and contaminates it with things that are no longer relevant in our lives. We think they are. We hold on to them, and we have to learn to let them go. And today's conversation, I think, is going to give people a whole different perspective about how to do that and how to move themselves forward in a different way. Because it is something slightly different than what we've talked about in the past, and stems from the same things from the things that we expose ourselves to during the week. So let's rock it. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I am. I'm so excited, Michael. Last week, when we spoke about learning how our beliefs and perceptions actually shape our reality and following what really lights us up, and instead of waiting for change to be that change and to actually be the solution, Michael said to me, he said, we hear this term all the time about a new earth and how we're thinking that it's a place that we're going to be, and it's really not that. And so this morning, when I was sort of pondering Michael's request to explore this topic, I kept hearing Bashar, Bashar, Bashar in my head. And I'm thinking, I wasn't really expecting to listen to a Bashar video, but I put it into the search, and up popped this video that gave me more than what I even thought I was going to get. So I'm really excited because the topic that we're going to dive into today really stretches our understanding of reality and those perceptions and our power within it. And Bashar, particularly in his idea of shifting that reality, he referred to this subject or this idea of Earth Zero. Whether you call it Earth Zero or New Earth, it's really not about escaping our current lives, but being conscious about what we're choosing and experiencing so that we can have something that aligns with our highest joy and purpose, which is something that Bashar talks about all the time. But it's really, I think, about how do we navigate that. So if we have this ability to consciously create our reality, what is it that you want to create? I had said to Michael before the show, we explore each week about our connection to love. And so if we are creating a new reality and starting from this 0 point Earth. What if shifting love in ourselves shifts all of reality? I think that it's a fun place to start exploring, Michael, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it.
Well, let's just say that the whole conversation of what Bashar was having, it's new to me. It's a different way of thinking. The idea that we create our future based on our past. We have experiential wisdom. We have experiences that we've had, and there's been a lot of feeling invested in them. And what he's saying is that's what we do mostly. We create the future based on what we know. And what we have to start doing is, and this is paraphrasing in a huge way, is cleaning the slate. Forget about the past. Forget about what you're doing right now. Sit down and clean the slate. Sort of create he calls it 0 Earth, if I get this right. And you clean the slate, and then you start thinking about what kind of life you want to be living. What are you doing in that life? And then seeing yourself in that vision, bringing that vision of the future into your present. I know this is like really oversimplifying. However, it's not a super complicated concept. It's just that we have to rearrange our minds to stop living from the past and creating our goals for the future based on the past, but creating our goals are looking at our future and saying, this is where I see myself. It's interesting because there wasn't an example, but if I had to come up with one for myself, let's say I saw myself living in Roatan or something, or the Honduras, right? And hanging out on the beach, chilling. Maybe I had a little business that helped people, and so I could continue to be of service. And, what we have a tendency to do is we get into okay, how can I do that? Why would I do that? How could I do that? How can I make that happen? Which is the wrong approach, all right? Because that's assessing the past, what we've done in the past, and it's take bookmarking kind of like where we are now, financially and this and that, and then wait a minute, relationship-wise, job-wise, all that. What will I do down there? How would I make this work? Instead of thinking about, okay, just being there. What would it mean to be there? What would it feel like? What would it look like? And how would I be there? Forgetting about the nuts and bolts of it, but just seeing ourselves in that picture. That's a futuristic picture, and then bringing that picture into the present right now in terms of our thinking and saying, yeah, I'm already there, right? I'm feeling it, I'm being it, and in my view, that's what I believe is most of what he was saying. And maybe you give your own 2 cents of, because there wasn't an example to actually pull from.
One of the things that he said that it really lit me up, I guess, was that he said that your future self leaves the footprints for you. But you can walk in those footprints, or you can walk, but you're still creating your own reality, which I know sounds very out there. But as I started to sort of anchor it in, I kind of looked at this. He said that all the realities, all the possibilities exist simultaneously. So when you think about that, it's not one linear path. And he spoke about it being a spiral rather than a straight path. And if you think about if you're walking in a circle, but that it wasn't just a circle, that it kept spiraling upward. And so I sort of thought, when I was visualizing it, about the staircase in the Vatican, it's kind of like spirals up and up. And depending on where you are, you're seeing different levels. And so if we, perhaps that future self is at the top. But it is. And he said that our consciousness is constantly sifting through these parallel realities moment by moment. So it already all exists for us. And when I was a kid, I don't know if you ever did this, Michael, but in school we would make these flip books, and where you would do like a little animation. You drew a stick figure, and each stick figure had a different movement. But then when you flipped the edges of the page, it looked like it was walking. Do you remember those at all? Do you remember flip books at all?
Yes.
Or did you ever make one?
No, but I know people have.
Yeah, but when you're flipping through there, each movement, each page already exists. So that's our reality. That exists. And so it depends what page you're flipping through. And that's sort of how I thought about what he was saying as Earth Zero, sort of as a metaphor, that each specific page holds a vibrational frequency that allows for different, more aligned experiences of reality. And in that, and we spoke about this last week, that pure potentiality. So it's about getting to that state of pure potentiality and having that fluidity. And I think that's really where our power lies, not waiting for reality to happen to us, but actively choosing and experiencing through what we want to focus and send our vibration to. Love being one of the highest frequencies. And we speak each week a lot. We refer a lot to Abraham Hicks, who teaches you're the creator of your own reality, and what you do with your thoughts and feelings impact what's happening. And I think that if we think about that flip book, and Bashar used the word exposure, like that one event will occur and sometimes there would be overlapping, and that's sort of why I thought about that flip book. But I had said to Michael earlier, when we had an opportunity to speak briefly, that I was thinking about the old cameras where you loaded film in and it didn't have a manual advance. And sometimes if you shot a still image and then you went to advance it, but you didn't advance it far enough, and you shot another image, you would end up with a double exposure.
Yeah,
and so I think, right, but you're capturing a moment in time. You're also capturing another moment in time, and they kind of overlap and they blur together. And I think that that's sort of what he was saying as a metaphor, that when you walk in your future self is creating these footsteps that we can walk in. And sometimes things overlap, but perhaps we want to go a different direction, sort of like taking a different route to work.
Well, he was also talking about one other thing too, that based on this, if you're adopting this as your thought process, that deja vus would be more consistent. They'd happen more often. Your explanation there reminded me more of what I heard, which is that we are living multiple, an infinite number of realities right now. We're at parallel realities. There's an infinite number, the infinite possibilities with regard to the realities that you're living presently. And what you're looking to do is to remember that and go out. Not necessarily go out, but you have the ability to step into any of those realities, those future realities that are existing, that you're already living. And by doing that, you are designing the present based on the future instead of the past. I believe that was the way that he explained it. But your explanation was spot on. Yeah, infinite possibilities exist for us, and that if we keep that in mind and dedicate some thought to what those realities might be, what realities we might want to experience ourselves, it's already existing. That Honduras example I gave, that was one of an infinite number of parallel realities that I'm already living. I'm already there, or I'm somewhere else, right? I'm in a plethora of different places, an infinite number of different places, and what I decide to focus on is really what's most important. Because it's about stepping into that reality. Now, we talked about one other thing too, which is New Earth, which is a little bit different in terms of explanation. New Earth being not a place, and not a future reality, not an infinite possibility, but a state of consciousness, a state of being, where you are a state of being of love. You're in a state of being of joy, of excitement, of passion, and all the positive higher frequencies that exist, gratitude, forgiveness. You're in all of that. That's the space you're in. And it's a space of 100% sovereignty, a space where you are a sovereign being. You are, that nothing outside of you controls anything about you. You control it. That is being a sovereign. And so ruling over your reality, the experience of reality that you're creating. It's not a place. It's just a way that you see, a state of consciousness that where you see things differently than other people who are not of that state of consciousness, who are of a state of consciousness that actually emanates from lower frequencies like anger and judgment and sadness and unhappiness, fight, struggle, lack, those kinds of things. And that's the reality that they're tuned into, and that's the reality that they're experiencing. So their outer world validates completely the state of being, a state of consciousness that they're living. So to some people, it's New Earth, where there's a whole different positive reality, and to other people, it's the drama reality, the negativity, the greed reality, the judgment reality, the unloving, the separation reality, I could probably say, because on a New Earth, there's no separation. We all understand that we're one. That state of consciousness that we're all one. It's all one love. It's all one person. We all come from the same place. We're all drops of water from the same well. It changes things. It changes the way that you perceive the life around you functionally on a daily basis, and then thereby you're attracting in the infinite realities that you're stepping into, that you are creating in your reality, are based on the love, the higher frequencies of love and joy and compassion and empathy and kindness. And the opposite for somebody who could be standing right next to you. You're going to see something completely different. It's not a place. It's just a state of mind, a state of being. And I got to tell you, when Pam Grier had said last week in one of her videos, she was talking about that it's not a place. It's a parallel reality that we create for ourselves based on our state of being, our state of consciousness. And that when I combine that, so when you talked about what you just explained with regard to infinite possibilities and Bashar, and that we could, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Bashar said we could step into any of those realities we envision for ourselves. Am I right?
He did say that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He did say that.
So, yeah, and
that
by
they exist simultaneously. Absolutely.
Right. There's an infinite number of you out there already, living whatever it is you want to live, living the way you want to live, where you want to live, how you want to live, how you want to think about yourself and your life. That it already exists. It already exists. So, based on that, you can choose one and decide that that's the reality you want to experience for yourself. And practically, perception is the fuel, is the vehicle, basically. Perception is the vehicle that allows you to make that happen. To me, that's fascinating. Okay, now, practically.
It is fascinating.
Practically. I mean, when he starts talking like that, I'm like, what the heck? You know, I mean, go ahead.
I know it's mind-bending, though. I totally get that, because I really do, because when I was in school, some of the things that bent my mind were things like imaginary numbers in mathematics. And I'm going, okay, how do we have the square root of a -1? And then we go into this whole thing of imaginary numbers and understanding that it could exist, even though when I was learning 1 + 1 = 2, perhaps it isn't just about that there were other things that came into my consciousness. And so I think if you're trying to bridge this spiritual wisdom and language, and you look at the word new versus zero, I mean, it's a language semantic. Whether you choose it, it's probably the same thing. They can coexist. I mean, if he was saying that these things occur simultaneously, we can have the new Earth and we can have the Earth zero at the same time. But this morning when I was listening to him, it made me think about 0-point energy. And I don't know if you're very familiar with 0-point energy, or our audience members are. So I just thought I would just explain just quickly, because it's really the lowest positive energy state of any system is what they call absolute zero. And it kind of ties into the whole imaginary number thing. The boundless ocean of potential is 0 point. It's the 0 point. It's the underlying energy field where all possibilities arise. And that's what we're talking about, potentiality. So metaphorically, this Earth zero could represent that foundational state of pure potential, where all possibilities exist before they collapse into our physical experience. And how our consciousness interacts with that field and that collapse. And many of us, I think sometimes I've had days where I feel like, okay, I'm just going to collapse into, I'm exhausted. I can't possibly do anymore. But out of that, new possibilities arise. And I'm experiencing a new reality. After I go to bed, wake up in the morning, it's a totally different reality. The past is in the past, and whatever I'm experiencing is yet to unfold in that day. And I think there's a little bit of magic in it. Many years ago, I had the opportunity to study with Dr. Eric Pearl, who taught reconnective healing. And I don't know if you're familiar with reconnective healing, but it was a very interesting experience for me because Dr. Eric Pearl had been a traditional chiropractor. People would go to him to experience a traditional chiropractic treatment. And through a very interesting series of events, he was led through this doorway that when a patient would come in and they would lay it down on the table, before he would put his hands on them, they would say to him, they would feel his hands, and he didn't touch them yet. And they would feel somebody enter the room. But what was really interesting is he didn't understand it. He was trying to understand it from a scientific standpoint and invited Dr. William Tiller in, who is really, I think, one of the very, very brilliant minds. And what they found in studying reconnective healing and the energies was that several days before there would be a seminar, the energy and the frequency of the room would actually start to change before anybody even showed up.
Right.
And one of the things that Dr. Pearl talked about, he talked about this thing called simulview, the ability to perceive multiple realities or dimensions simultaneously. And that was sort of what he felt that reconnective healing did. It involved accessing those broader spectrums of frequencies, being light, information, and energy. And I think that's sort of what Bashar is talking about with this Earth Zero. I mean, as far as that's how I sort of anchored in into my own reality, that our reality isn't just singular, that there's this consciousness and we can tap into different aspects of that larger reality. And so as you were speaking about, Michael, that oneness aspect, we really allow that to shine. We can perceive these multiple realities, but we're all connected. And I believe that's the love that I was talking about, that when we connect with that love, we can shift all the realities. We shift that for ourselves, and that's how we have that potential of living in that heaven on earth. So
that's a wonderful way of saying it, quite frankly, of creating that picture. Yeah, it's a fantastic explanation. Yeah, I agree with you 110%. In my view, each time we change our thinking, we should make little shifts to our reality. Every time, because we're perceiving things differently, and sometimes it can just be a minute shift where we go from not liking someone to liking them, to accepting them, and allowing them to be who they are, which is really the most interesting I heard last week. Was that it was about allowing people. It was a channel who was talking about whose entity being was talking about things would be dramatically different. What they wished for this planet is that people would stop seeing people as being separate from each other, and that people would simply accept people for the choices that they made, the decisions they made, the clothes they wore, the way that they behaved. People would just accept them for being who they are.
That's beautiful.
Whatever choices they make, right? It started me thinking when I heard it about the fact that I was on the way to Tallahassee at the time, so I had a lot of time. I love it because I have a lot of time to think, and I just paused it for a moment, the interview, and I said to myself, I was thinking to myself, gosh, this is amazing how it's so profound. Think about the change that would occur in the USA here where we live, all around the world, if people would just stop trying to get people to conform to what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really one of the things. The powers that be want to corral you into a little space. They want to make you be this way, behave that way, spend money this way, do that, make these choices. And what if you didn't want to do that? There are people living on this planet now back in the 60s, they were called hippies, who just got in a vehicle and lived from place to place and just loved and lived from love and kindness and made a way for themselves wherever they went, right? And accepted everybody as they were.
That's what people call me, a hippie chick. Isn't that funny? That's
right. People call you a hippie chick.
Because yeah, they do.
Yeah, and that's a judgment.
I like living that way.
Yeah, this is a judgment that isn't necessarily the most positive connotation from their perspective, but it's all about how we perceive it. You know, I would take hippie chick as a compliment, right?
Yeah, exactly. Take it as a compliment. I mean, I don't live out of I live in a normal house, but I think it's that free spirit, and I love fun clothes. I don't wear prints, but I love like very vibrant pants and funky shoes, and I love vintage clothes. I love vintage clothing, like big hats and crazy things. But they make me happy. They bring me joy.
That's right. And that's all someone has to do. All we have to do is drop the judgment and allow people to be who they are, right? And to think the way they want, and to accept the decisions that they make, to allow them to be who they are, right? And because everybody's trying to corral everybody, you know. Religion tries to corral you into this corner, and non-religion tries to corral you into that corner, and this corner, and this political party wants to corral you into that mode of thinking, and this one here wants you to do that. And you know what? It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Exhausting to me, I know. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to I'm living my version of New Earth as you are right now. It's just that now somebody's kind of coined the term New Earth, or in this case, in Bashar's case, Earth Zero. Yeah. I mean, because really, let's think about it for a second. I just want to break down what you just said. You and just to demonstrate to our just think the word, because I'm in my office. Break down to our audience just the difference in perceptive, how perception dictates your reality. Because you said people call you a hippie chick. Now, if you were to say, I hate the term hippie chick, that would create one reality for you. That would create a reality that had lower frequencies associated with it, like anger or dissatisfaction, or in some cases on the real far out spectrum, hate. You'd hate those people for calling you that, right? And that would dictate the reality that you experience based on that term. However, you chose to love it, so you embrace it. You embrace your difference. The differences in thinking between you and them and everybody else, and you do whatever you want to do, and that brings you joy and happiness and excitement and passion, and you also look good on top of it. So, what can I say?
You're so sweet.
The reality that you live. You know, I'm not far from you. I'm not far from you. For my entire life, I have made choices that have been slightly different. I mean, I fit into the business world with a suit and the tie and all that kind of stuff. That's not a big deal. But I made sure that the ties were very unique. I just don't pick any tie. You know, it has to be a specific tie. And I like specific shoes because they make me feel good. I own bright blue and bright orange shoes, loafers, casual loafers, moccasin-like loafers that I wear without socks with straight leg pants. I mean, or shorts. And I have belts to match them. So I like.
And you have a pair of bright orange shoes. I know that about you.
Yeah, bright orange shoes, bright orange belt that goes with them. I can wear that out.
And it brings you joy every time you put them on, right?
Absolutely.
I know it does.
Orange is one of my favorite colors. I love orange as an accent color on me. And it's like you just be you and don't really care about what other people think, because I always look at it this way. Anybody who's got enough time to judge me really isn't taking the time in their life to do to experience joy in other areas of their life. They're wasting too much time judging me or judging other people. And that's, you think about where that comes from. I had a conversation with my nephew, who happens to be gay, and he came out as gay in high school, in his first years of high school. And you know, my mother told, just be you. She said, just be you. You know, you don't have to be what somebody else, conform to what somebody else wants you to be. And this is a brilliant kid, by the way. He's going to medical school at UCSF in August. He's brilliant. He's of service to other people. That is who he is. He's a beautiful spirit who is of service to other people. That's his choice. Pretty much that's our family. We're all of service to someone else in some way. But he wanted to do it from a perspective of a doctor. And he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he was born into a family that accepted him hook, line, and sinker all along the way. He has such a great disposition. And, I basically told him, I said, because he was, he experienced the bullying in school. Kids who want you to conform to what they want you to be will turn around and bully you. But bottom line is, he has the strength, the fortitude of consciousness, and in space and time. That he says, that doesn't bother him. It doesn't bother him at all. Because he is who he is, and he knows who he is. When we allow when we know who we are, and we live from that, when we're confident in knowing that we're doing the right thing for ourselves, and we're happy, we're joyful, nobody can disrupt that. He acted from sovereignty much, much earlier than some people that I know. And that's I don't know how he discovered it. He's of that generation that is I guess figured that out, that came in with these ideas, these consciousness, with a certain consciousness that actually embraced that. But that is the kid that acts from sovereignty. And he attracts into his life the people that resonate that sovereignty. And he's always done it. He hasn't ever come across again anybody who has tried to belittle him or in any given way. If we give in to that, if we give in to and dedicate energy, negative energy to people who are negative towards us, then we propagate that. We create that reality where we've now stepped down to their level, now that we're going to get validation of that reality because that's where we've put ourselves. And he chose the opposite, and so would I. I have in the past as well. When I've been bullied about one thing or another, not even, not super bullied, but just, needled, about something. And I've said, you know what, I'm cool. I'm who I am. And if you don't give into it, they give up on it. You're not changing your state of being.
I applaud him. I think it takes a lot of courage when you're that age. And it made me contemplate myself. How often do we deny that part of ourselves, living fully, truly who we are? And if we choose to do and step into the truth of who we are, what changes, what allows us. And I think it's opening that gateway, that full spectrum. And like Eric Pearl, when he was a traditional Beverly Hills chiropractor, energy healing is not really acceptable. But the magic and everything, the amazing things that unfolded and the people that he's helped and taught and the people that they've helped. I use reconnective healing a lot with horses, and it's amazing because there is no placebo effect with horses. They attune to the energy, they attune to the frequency, they all turn. Exactly. I've worked on some horses that have been in a challenging state. And the one woman, and it's so interesting you say this because it's a little different than what your nephew experienced, but I had been referred to this woman whose horse was not doing well, and I went to her stable and I started working on the horse, and the daughter came in as I was working, and she was very opposite of positive, and she said, I don't understand. Why are you having her here? Well, we've had all of these veterinarians, and they can't do anything, and she's just waving her hands, and I was connected with the horse, but I could hear this dialogue going on. And I just smiled, and I just sent her love, and I just continued working. And when I was done, I had a nice visit with the owner of the horse, and I left. But the magic and miracles that unfolded after that, the horse fully recovered from its injury. Was I responsible? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's not. I'm not in ego in that way. But it was interesting because if I would have stepped into that doubt, maybe I'm not connecting with this energy of this horse. But it's very interesting when you sort of understand, you're accessing frequencies and you're inviting things in. And it was for the horse to attune, as if Bashar is talking about that energy field, that energy of everything existing at one time. So the way that I explain it to people, when you drop into the field, and that's really what it is, it's like my own 0 point energy. I'm dropping into the field of the heart. When I drop down in there, I allow whatever is meant to unfold from moment to moment. I'm not trying to control anything. Whatever is meant to unfold will unfold. I'm just there sort of like a placeholder. And I just wanted to step back, too, because, Michael, when you were speaking about being authentically me, I think one of the things that inspired me when I was a kid was watching the reruns of Laugh-In. I loved that show because I loved all the little doors that opened up and the freedom of being able to say what you wanted, and the go-go dancers with the fashion. But it was sort of, to me, it represented just being free and being me and being, they were who they were. And it was just a fun sort of show, and I think that each one of us can kind of find that for ourselves. I mean, it just, I know that sounds so funny and silly, but
no, it doesn't. No, I'm thinking about something completely different.
Yeah, but I think what it did, like when those doors opened up, I mean, if I would align it to something, it was, for those individuals in our audience that are familiar with the show, it was like a wall of doors, and one would open, and there would be an actor or comedian behind the door, and they would have like a punchline, and it was just a silly little show. But those doors sort of reminded me of the universe. Like the universe is abundant with possibilities. So what door are we going to open? And how are we going to choose? What are we going to align to? And we spoke last week, both Michael and I have been delving into Sarah Landon, and she said, you're not creating from nothing. You're choosing from everything. So all of those possibilities, all those doors exist, and it's our role to choose and align to what we want to open to. And for your nephew, he aligned and opened to the truth of who he was. Not just being gay, but he's a healer, and he wants to help. He wants to be of service. And I think that's absolutely beautiful.
I think it's fantastic. Just for the record, I used to watch Laugh-In live once a week on television. That's how many decades I've been on this planet. But we used to look forward to it. We thought it was really kind of cool. I mean, there's a lot of places that I lived in my life where there was no television. So 7 years, in my first 15 years, there was no TV anywhere. I mean, I was in countries that didn't have, they might have had television, but we didn't have one. We didn't really care about it. We made life fun by connecting with other people and doing fun things. But you're right about it, and I love the idea, and I remember that so vividly. The wall of little doors that people would be behind, and they would open the door and say whatever their punchline is, and then close it, right? And make whatever statement they're going to make. And generally, it's some funny line, which is interesting. And you never knew who was going to come out of who was going to make a cameo appearance. That was the cool thing about it. You know, you're right. Frank Sinatra would come out and say, he would open the door and say something and close it again, and he was never anywhere on the show except for in that door. You know, I mean, it's like it was so cool the way that they put that show together, and it was distinct. It was very, very unique, and I agree. That's we have infinite possibility to sit down and think about where you are right now. I mean, our audience, just all over the world, wherever you're sitting, wherever you're listening to this from, just think about the fact, when we're done with the show, that you have infinite possibilities. That all the possibilities you could ever imagine, you're already living for yourself. I mean, that's mind-blowing, right? You're already living them in a parallel reality. You're already living. All you want to do is attune yourself to that reality. You want to attune yourself to that reality. Tune your beliefs, your perceptions, your feelings, all your positive energies. Attune them to that reality. And never doubt it. You're already living it. And what Bashar's talking about is drawing that future to you. Drawing it to you and living from that instead of the other way around. Bringing the past into the present and then trying to create the future from that. No. The realities exist. Infinite realities exist before us. Now, yes, this is a past, present, and future living on the same timeline. I think there was somebody who described it to me one time in a reading as a spinning top, like a spinning top, that you balances and you spin it. Right. If you imagine that spinning top, and that past, present, and future is all on that top in different places. It's all spinning around. And I envision that every time I think about that. It made that kind of impression on me, that the spinning top has all the possibilities, all of the past, present, and future are all sitting right there. And that your past doesn't have to define your future unless you allow that to happen, unless you want that to occur. And a lot of people allow their past to define them. Okay? I have the utmost respect for people who overcome any illness, however they do it, because I know mentally there's a big mental part of making that happen. However, the people I know, and I know some people who have had cancer in one way or another, and they have been able to overcome it. And those who have, let's just put it this way, they've let it. It's just something that happened in their life, and it's over. Right? It was an imbalance that was rebalanced. It was a molecular imbalance, a body imbalance, a thought imbalance. One of the possibilities that they embraced because of some thinking that they had. They changed the possibilities for themselves, stepped into a different reality that doesn't exist, where that illness doesn't exist. But they don't carry that illness into the definition of who they are today and who they're going to be tomorrow. They don't do that. They don't make them a victim of whatever that was, and use it as a platform for moving forward. It was an imbalance, and that's all it was, and it doesn't exist anymore. You've shifted your thinking about yourself, about your reality, about your life. You've changed belief systems and perceptions that have led to that no longer being compatible with you, that illness, that dis-ease no longer being compatible with you. And I've got a wonderful friend out in Oklahoma who's just such a beautiful spirit. And she had a relapse of a dis-ease that came back. And her attitude is so amazing. I talked to her the other day, and she says, "Yeah, it's subsided. It's no longer with me." And I said, "That's fabulous." But she changed venues too. She moved from here to Oklahoma to a place, a smaller town, but there was a huge sense of community there, and she had that community and some family that helped her consciousness move through the situation and shift some things, and that was wonderful. And I've got to give her a call here in the next day or so, but to talk to her live, because we talk on text all the time. But that is so important to embrace a different reality for yourself whenever you find yourself in a disease. It's not just that you're experiencing physical symptoms that you want to get rid of. It's, as you know, as an energy healer, it's about shifting the consciousness that created whatever it was in the first place, the disease, the imbalance. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit as far as that shift that occurs. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a common cold. It could be the flu. It could be whatever it is. There's a physical imbalance in your body, but there's something associated with it perceptually. Am I right?
Yeah, the way that I explain it when I'm working with individuals is that everything is a pattern. If you look around you, the carpet that is on the floor has a pattern, the ceiling has a pattern. There's patterns in nature. We are a pattern of cells. So if, Michael, you had a sweater on or a shirt, and I came and I saw a loose thread, and I pulled at that thread, I'm changing that pattern. And you would look at me and go, what are you doing? You're unraveling my sweater. But you could try to pull it back in, but that pattern will never go back to being the same. It has changed. And so when I work with somebody, I ask them to notice what's interesting and different, because you're not looking necessarily for anything specific, but when you recognize that there is something interesting that's changed or something different, the pattern's already shifting, and it'll continue to change, and you don't need to control it. It'll unfold the way that it's meant to. And I think that that's really, for me, one of the biggest things, even in what Bashar was saying. It's about letting go of the how and trusting that the universe will deliver exactly in divine perfection whatever is meant. So it's all about that joy of the journey, not the destination. We have to understand that if we take the path of least resistance, which is why I say don't be vested in the outcome. Just notice what is around you. And I do that even in my own life when I try to shift something. And that's one of the things I really embody about Bashar. We talk about this a lot. Follow your highest excitement with no insistence on the outcome. I mean, how many times do I hear it? And I think that allows us to sort of put ourselves in vibrational alignment. And oftentimes, you and I speak about things, and so how do you practically apply what we're speaking about? How do we shift our reality to that Earth Zero, to align ourselves with that pure potential? And I think one of the ways is emotionally checking in. I know you meditate in the morning. You sort of you take that time, you anchor into your morning, and you kind of say, okay, well, maybe you might not have had the best day in the market, whatever it was in your work, but you anchor in and you say, I'm going to create a day that's amazing. And so you find thoughts that feel better. I do that a lot. And I think that, and we speak about this a lot, the power of appreciation and gratitude to raise our vibration. One of the practices that I love from Abraham Hicks were rampages of appreciation. So that when I have a challenge, just find the blessings in whatever it is, and not seeing it as a problem, but actually seeing it as an opportunity for growth and change, and really sort of embrace that nature of ourselves as creators. I mean, I think so many times we do give away our power, and maybe we can't open that door and see Frank Sinatra there, but we might end up opening that door and seeing somebody that's a Frank Sinatra impersonator or something else that delivers us that message, right? I
don't know. I'm seeing Frank Sinatra. I'm sorry.
My way. You're going to see Frank Sinatra. I think that's great, and you can totally do that. I mean, you never know. You trust in the process of manifestation, right, Michael?
That is true.
Whatever it is. What do you want to create next?
It's interesting because Sarah Landon's book that you turned me on to, the council, the messages from the council, I believe. It was talking about something along these lines of something which you just said, of how we have to step into the flow and allow things to happen for us. And I was thinking about it today in relationship to a golf video that I'm going to do, because a lot of people, when they go to do something, they have their mind on a specific outcome, and we're ingrained from childhood to focus on the how, which is the first thing we have to forget when we want to step into the flow. We have to forget about the how. We just have to create the mindset and the mental circumstances. We have to create the mental space for the miracle to unfold, for the magic to happen, which is really the flow, right? To step into the zone or step into the flow of something, we have to, as she was mentioning, bring it to us. Instead of us trying to get to it, we bring it to us. We bring that success to us. We bring the great golf game to us, and we don't try to go get it. We don't try to fight it or grind it out or any of the, or struggle it out. We don't try to do that. We just believe. We just create clarity and harmony and peace and joy and love, and we just move forward. We move step by step, believing that the end results will be grander than we could imagine. Mm-hmm. And when I started using that, stepping into that in a greater way is really a way I put it. I was always using it, but stepping into it in a greater way as I've been in the last 6 months, as I've listened to many of these things, Bashar and Abraham and Sarah Landon, Carol Collins. It's all about how do I apply that to my own life? How do I apply it to my golf game? Both at the same time, because I'm fascinated about, to me, golf is a metaphor for life. It could be any sport where you are the sole individual involved, where your success or failure, if you want to see those dualities, depends upon you and you alone, where there's no one else out there, right? It'd be like you paragliding. It's you and the glider, right? Mm-hmm. You're diving out of a plane. It's you and your parachute as a skydiver. There's no one else there with you. There's no one else who's responsible for anything that goes on. But I'm fascinated by this, and I've been playing some of the best golf of this chapter of my life, because
that's fantastic. Yay!
It's absolutely amazing. And even when things haven't gone right initially, I've been able to right the ship quickly and then play the most amazing second half. Amazing second half. The kind of second half that I played 2 halves of last Sunday. I played Saturday and Sunday, and the first half of the game on Saturday was probably one I haven't shot that badly in a long time. But it wasn't that I looked at that and said, "Oh, everything's over, woe is me, blah blah blah." I literally have this firewall I put between actually each hole, certainly front and back half. I put a firewall up. That doesn't exist anymore. What exists is what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And in doing that, I proved to myself that shifting the mindset that I had in the beginning, or whatever, I was off by 1 degree or 2 degrees every time, I would make some small shifts, because you can't solve a problem with the same frequency that created it, the same mindset that created it. If you're looking at Einstein, if you want to call things problems and other things opportunities, you're doing something, and you have to change something in order to achieve a different result. Now, mindset was the first thing. Physicality, something physically I changed to go along with it. I assessed, and I put a firewall up, and then I did phenomenally better on the second half than I did on the first half. And all I cared about was that I was able to make that shift. It's practice for me. So, because I take it off the golf course, I bring it to life, and whatever comes up in life, I remember that I'm the one in charge, that I'm the one who has the ability to change whatever outcome it is, whatever outcome I experience, not somebody else, but I experience. And so I'm constantly in relationship and connection, friends, family, whatever. I am constantly, and people are perfect strangers. I'm always mindful of the fact that the energy I put into is the energy I get out of it. And the reality that I want to experience when I go into a restaurant or go to buy something at the store or whatever is what I get out of that experience is what I put into it. And I attempt to put love and kindness and compassion and empathy into that experience. And that's what I get out of it. Whether I get the response from people that someone would expect, I don't have that expectation. I just know that I was in there, I gave it love. That's what I know. I know I'm putting love in. I'm putting compassion in, I'm putting empathy in. And that's really the way we in my view, begin to make a definite difference in our daily lives. We create a different reality for ourselves because we shift our thinking and we decide, okay, I'm living from love, I'm living from gratitude, I'm living from appreciation. And it becomes a practice for us. And after a while, it's not a practice, it's just who you are. It's who you've become. It's the timeline, it's the parallel reality that you've chosen for yourself, and it's one based on love and kindness and empathy and compassion in every way. Someone comes to you, they're angry about something that you did, something that you didn't do. It's not like implosion time. It's, wow, let's see what happens when we give this some love, right? We know they're upset. Can't control another person. You cannot control another person what they think. You can influence them. And you influence them by the energy and the frequency that you bring to the table. And I always remember that, and I encourage our audience to remember that too, and give that a go. Start living from that perspective and handling issues that you might have or challenges in life from that perspective of what are you putting in? What you get out is what you put in. And if you want a positive outcome, you have to put positivity into it. You have to feed that into the mixture, right?
That's so beautifully said, Michael. It's such a great summation exactly about that journey to that Earth Zero. and really that it is not these multidimensional realities, the new Earth, Earth Zero, whatever you want to call it. We are already those powerful sovereign beings that are constantly creating and shifting our experience. And when you're consciously doing that, which is what you're doing, you're reflecting that vibration into everything that you're doing. And you're constantly choosing the thoughts and the feelings that align with love and joy. And you're shifting to that Earth Zero, that baseline of possibilities. And one of the things that I have heard you say, and I have been embodying it myself, and it came from the council, I couldn't be any happier than I am right now. And when I find myself going down a doorway that I don't necessarily want to open up and see who's behind the door, I'm just like, okay, no, I couldn't be any happier than I am right now. And I keep bringing myself back to that. And I know that we've talked about a lot of different things. And so for our audience, I would invite you to sort of experiment with some of the ideas that Michael and I have embodied ourselves. And really, I'd love to hear what small shifts that you make in your beliefs or your focus that align you with more joy in your reality and what you're creating. And really follow your highest excitement. And what does that look like for you today? Because it's those small steps. It's that openness. It's your curiosity. It's your willingness to explore all of these different concepts that really can bring that new earth to you and to each one of us. And I'm excited. And I can't be any happier than I am right now.
That's right.
Truly,
me either. And it's that way every week and every day. We have to take time to remember that happiness and joy are the key. And if we're not feeling that, if we're not living from that, if we're not experiencing that reality, that we have to look in the mirror and not outside of us. We have to look in the mirror because we're the ones creating the reality. It's our perceptions, our beliefs that are creating the reality of what we're experiencing. And we don't have to acquiesce to being angry and upset with people and yelling and screaming if they're yelling and screaming. We don't have to do that. We can remain calm. We can create a reality for ourselves that is completely different, and let other people play out their reality that they're creating for themselves. Let them play it out, and be an influence. That they might be saying in their mind, "I'd like to be like that." And when you get somebody who comes to you and says, "I'd like to be more like you. I'd like to handle that like you handled it," then you know that you're a being of an influence. You're being a positive influence in someone's life, and that's all you can do. Can't control them, can't change them. So that's the way life is.
Yeah. So true.
Love this show. Thank you.
I do too. Thank you, Michael. It's such this is another inspiring conversation, and I just love it, and I'm looking forward to each week. And until our next conversation, please keep connecting to love, to oneness, and your magnificent multidimensional human spirit that's within you. And from the words of Laughing, sock it to me, peace out. I don't know, were there any other ones? I just remember sock it to me. Peace out. What other ones?
Yeah. No, those are the two main ones. Peace out and sock it to me. Sock it to me was the main monoline. Yeah. Sock it to me.
Talk to me. I got a big ball of love for you, Michael. Talk to me.
Same for you. Take care of yourself.
Great. Until next time, thank you.
Bye-bye.